Welcome. My name is Joe Goodwin, and I am so excited to be here for Veterans Legal Services' 30th anniversary virtual celebration. I have served on the board of directors at VLS since 2015, and it has been an absolute honor to work with the incredible staff, volunteer attorneys, my fellow board members, and countless others who are deeply dedicated to helping Massachusetts veterans access justice through free civil legal aid. Veterans Legal Services was founded in 1991 by a pair of students at Boston College Law School, Sean Mullaney, who you will hear from tonight, and Manuel Duran, both veterans themselves, created an organization that mobilized BC law students and later Suffolk law students as well to meet the civil legal needs of veterans experiencing homelessness in Boston. Today, 30 years later, VLS is a very different organization, but its dedication and commitment to former service members living in Massachusetts remains unchanged. VLS continues to promote equity in the accessing of justice by providing free and comprehensive civil legal aid to economically disadvantaged veterans throughout the state. VLS helps former service members obtain the stability and financial security necessary to live the healthy, happy, and dignified lives that they deserve. Today, VLS has a full-time staff of 8, including 6 licensed attorneys, a pro bono network of almost 200 attorneys from around the state, and it operates legal clinics through the New England Center and Home for Veterans in Boston, the VA Hospital in Bedford, the Chelsea Soldiers Home, and the Norfolk County Veterans Treatment Court in Dedham. In addition, VLS features a telelegal operation that enables veterans from anywhere in Massachusetts to seek free legal support via email, phone, or the web. This past year has been incredibly difficult for so many people, particularly within the veteran community. Yet as it has done so many times over so many years, our team at VLS was prepared to meet the moment. Whether it was preventing illegal housing evictions or helping veterans access emergency financial or medical benefits, VLS staff and pro bono attorneys spent the past year fighting tirelessly on behalf of those who have given so much of themselves in service to our country. The COVID pandemic has laid bare many of the inequities that exist throughout society, and it has proven what VLS has long known, that legal aid is an essential service. But as always, there is still much work to be done for our veterans, much need that remains unmet. And that's why VLS recently launched a new 5-year strategic plan that has us doubling the number of veterans we serve annually in Massachusetts, the goal of 1,400 by the end of 2025. To be sure, it's going to require a whole lot of work and a whole lot of support from those who, like VLS, remain deeply committed to taking care of our veteran community. So, before we start the celebration, I want to offer a huge thank you to all of our incredible event sponsors. All of VLS's legal aid services are provided to veterans free of charge, which means we rely on the generosity of foundations, companies, and individual donors. So, I would like to thank our fabulous presenting sponsor, the Albert and Dana Broccoli Foundation, our 5-star sponsor, Yale Appliance, and our 4-star sponsors, the Eastern Bank Charitable Foundation, First Republic, the Hanscom Federal Credit Union Charitable Foundation, the Highland Street Foundation, Rosemary and Richard Allen, Santander Bank, 1000 Southern Artery, and the law firm Sidley. Thank you so much to each of them and to all of our event sponsors. And thank you to everyone who has supported veteran legal services over the last 30 years. If you're able to, please consider making an additional contribution to VLS during the event. The donation link will be in the comments section. And thank you to everyone out there for your continued support.
In 1991, the Veterans Shelter for Homeless Veterans had recently opened a couple years earlier. And I was happening by the building one day and decided I wanted to go in and see what they were doing and ask them whether there were any legal services for which law students might be helpful. They directed me to a lawyer who was then providing pro bono legal services and kind of patching up the holes as best as he could. And we got together and met, and that's when I really learned about all the unmet legal civil services that these veterans needed at the shelter. Well, I, together with my fellow veterans at the law school, were generally a few years older than most of our peers at the school. And we'd been in the service, obviously, and many of them held officer positions. So there was an inherent confidence that if there was an issue we were addressing, would be successful in overcoming it. We discovered the student attorney rule in Massachusetts, which was a fairly unique statute at the time, which allowed law students, under the supervision of a licensed attorney, to actually represent clients in front of the bar. And there were a lot of us who were recently discharged from the military because of the end of the Cold War. And we were all a pretty tight group at the school. So when we came up with a kernel of the thought that maybe with volunteer attorneys supervising volunteer law students, we can come up with a model to address and staff clinics at the shelter. BC Law was entirely supportive of the entire initiative. The first thing we did is find a faculty supporter, advisor. His name was Richard Huber. He was a law school professor, of course, a veteran, and he agreed to sponsor us as a group, which enabled us to get funding from the school, as well as office space and materials and supplies. The biggest challenge we had when we started was we had no money, literally. So we were relying upon the school to give us the supplies. And as we came closer to graduation, we realized that we had to raise some money to hire an executive director to run the organization. And we begged, borrowed, and stole some money. Greater Boston Legal Services was a big help with that. That was our first step towards the evolution of the business into a more durable, sustainable business model that we could actually have tangible results that would attract funding. I'm most proud of the fact that we're here 30 years later telling you about how it all started. Few people would have expected that. Again, it's a student-run organization that was staffed primarily by veterans to start. That trail of veterans, I'm sure, kind of winnowed out after a while after the Cold War went down. So the commitment to the veteran community, I think, is just terrific. And that's what I'm most proud of.
When I was attending law school, I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer in order to work in public interest, to help those who, but for that support, might not have anywhere to turn. What I did learn as I explored the field of public interest law is that veterans are not prioritized often enough. We know today that if Veterans Legal Services doesn't help a particular veteran, there might not be anywhere else for that veteran to turn. And for me, that's an unacceptable outcome, and it's what motivates me every day to do more for Veterans Legal Services.
People have a right to counsel in criminal cases, but they don't have a right to counsel in cases where they're facing the loss of their home or the loss of their family or the loss of their benefits. It can have a very similar effect in some ways, a loss of liberty, and yet they have no access to an attorney to help them understand.
Attorneys really have a duty and a responsibility to make a difference in the community. Usually when you kind of think about community leaders, say a lot of them happen to be attorneys or have a legal background. I think most of us understand how lucky we are to kind of be in the position that we're in, and we kind of feel that sense of responsibility to give back to the community.
I always knew I wanted to be a public interest lawyer and use my professional skills to help change people's lives. And at VLS, I get to do that every single day. When a veteran says to you, "You've changed my life," and that's someone who's already given their service, to be able to serve them is tremendously rewarding.
VLS's program model has always been to deliver services on site at locations in the community where veterans are already accessing other services. This is true of our very first clinic back 30 years ago at the New England Center and Home for Veterans, where we still provide services to this day. And the benefits of that model are twofold. First, it ensures that the services are very accessible to veterans. So many veterans are already going to these locations in the community, such as VA hospitals, to access things such as medical care and job training. And second, it helps ensure that VLS is maintaining deeply meaningful relationships with all of the veteran supportive service providers. This allows for very productive two-way referrals between those organizations and VLS. And it also helps ensure that the veteran is receiving holistic support where they may be facing multiple challenges.
The U.S. Marine occupied Santo Domingo in 1965. And at the time, when they occupied the area where I was living, there was a soldier there running a battery. He had a artillery battery, and I was 8 years old, and I had cut myself with a bottle top, my toe, and I was wounded. You know, I was bleeding. He seen me hopping along, and he asked me what was the problem, and I explained to him. So the Marine asked me to come back every day, and he will heal my wounds. And that's what I did. I came coming back every day. So finally, about a week and a half, come out looking for him, and he was gone. The whole unit was gone, like they were never there. And that was kind of like my inspiration to join the Marine Corps when I migrated here in 1965, August 18, 1965. When I joined the Marine Corps, I was 18 years old. I was under the impression that if you serve the country, you automatically become a citizen. After serving about 7 years active duty, got discharged in 1982, and I thought I was good to go. I was a citizen. That's what I thought. But come to find out that wasn't the case. I had to go through a whole process. When I applied for my citizenship, I hired a lawyer, a private lawyer, to get nowhere, actually, to be honest. So the Veteran VA at Bedford, Massachusetts, they told me that the Veteran Legal Service could help me. And I went with that. I scheduled an appointment with the Veterans Legal Service. I came in and I spoke to a lawyer. There was a retired judge, and they told me that they can help me. And after 5 years of struggling, going through depression, anxiety, trying to get my citizenship, Veteran Legal Service made it happen in 4 months. Well, when I finally got my citizenship, to be honest, I nearly cried. You know, I couldn't believe it was happening. 1965 to 2017, so many years, you know, no way I could have accomplished that without the Veterans Legal Service.
There are so many parts of your life that you don't even realize are affected by the law and your legal rights until one of those legal rights is violated or taken away from you. And there's just a lot that people take for granted. But when it does happen, it can be devastating. A lot of the issues that civil legal aid organizations like VLS deal with have to do with very significant fundamental rights that are more than just legal rights, really. You know, rights having to do with your family, with your children, with your housing, and with veterans in particular, with your benefits, with your health care, with access to the things that you have earned. And there is a lot of bureaucracy in place. When it comes to housing, for example, you can almost always expect that landlords and housing companies will have lawyers, that they can afford to have lawyers, and a lot of individuals can't. Legal aid does level the playing field for people a little bit.
Sometimes something as simple as one of our lawyers sending a letter to a state agency or a court can be the difference between whether someone can stay in their home or be a parent to their children.
Until you reach the legal issues, it's a real blockade to helping veterans get completely back on their feet. So what we have been able to do, and what we want to continue to do, is to work with veterans organizations who may not have the legal expertise. In fact, we are the only legal aid organization in Massachusetts that focuses exclusively on veterans.
First of all, number one, VLS has the legitimacy. They've gone through the test of time. I remember them being at the shelter coming over on Wednesday nights, and they were there every Wednesday. That's what veterans want to depend on. They want somebody that's going to be there for them. And that gives them some sense of legitimacy, some sense of urgency that this person is going to take care of me. They're going to listen to what I have to say. They're going to take the time, in which they do. That's important to a veteran. He has to be able to say what he has to say, be able to have someone that's going to listen to him, that's going to acknowledge him, that he is a person, that he is a being, that he does have a situation that he wants to address.
Folks like me who were deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan have been really welcomed home with open arms. It wasn't always the case. For example, a lot of the Vietnam era veterans were forgotten about or mistreated when they got back. So when we're able to help a Vietnam era veteran with getting benefits they've been denied most of their lives, particularly related to in-service in Vietnam, like Agent Orange, it really helps complete kind of their integration process back to civilian life.
So to understand where they're coming from and what effects that experience has had on them, I think is very important. And so we can assist veterans if they come home and they find themselves looking at a divorce or needing to modify a custody arrangement or change their child support or something like that because their income has drastically reduced when they've left the military.
We work to resolve those stressors, remove those barriers so that veterans can go on to lead the dignified lives they deserve.
I chose to join the military for tradition. I am 5th generation, and I'm 1st generation Air Force, but I'm 5th generation military. When I received this letter, again, it was from my ex's attorney, and he wanted full custody and he wanted full child support from me, and that was daunting. That was scary. I got angry. I was in school at the time, and I didn't have the time to put in as much research as I needed to find an attorney. And I contacted you guys, and I was connected with an attorney, Eve Elliott, and the services here were absolutely amazing. I feel that working with an organization who's well-versed in dealing with veterans helped. There's a lot of explaining I didn't have to do. When I did, called other organizations, it's like I had to kind of like explain my life away. Whereas I didn't have to go through that with dealing with this service. The value of having somebody fight for me, specifically Eve fight for me, is she was able to give a voice. She was able to be my voice in areas that I'm not well versed in. It was a highly emotional situation. I left for DV. His wanting contact with the children caused the youngest to commit self-harm. It was like he set a time bomb off in my home. I went from a peaceful home to just all this chaos. And I was able to let an expert handle that portion so that I could kind of mitigate, the other things going on. And I still maintain full custody of the children. My ex has to pay child support, and the children will visit him when they are finally ready to visit him.
We've been fortunate throughout the years to have wonderful supporters who helped us grow from a Boston College law student organization to an 8-person organization today. We've had the support of private foundations, Boston area law firms and businesses, Social Innovation Forum, social venture partners, and countless individuals, including those who've served on the board of directors, Friends of VLS, and Council of Advisors. But we all need to deepen our commitment to this mission.
When friends and colleagues hear that I am a board member of VLS, they're always curious to hear more about what we do. There are so many organizations in Massachusetts that help veterans, but VLS is one of the only that's fully dedicated to providing free legal services to low-income veterans. And that's so important to me because I think as part of the holistic care and well-being of our at-risk veterans, we really need to serve them as a whole. And through VLS's precedent-setting work throughout housing, benefits, and family law, VLS meets the diverse and complex needs of our veterans in Massachusetts
just like any other cause, like immigration, to succeed, you need strong allies. Some of the folks that are doing the most and the best veterans work aren't veterans. They're allies that support the cause. VLS is also super supportive of all the pro bono matters they give out. So if there's specific military culture related questions or veterans issues, they're always there to help and provide guidance.
As a partner at SVP, one of the best things about working with VLS is that they have these very ambitious goals of doubling the number of veterans that they serve, and of reaching veterans where they are. I think that that is critical to their mission, and it's a huge part of the reason that we want to help. We came in with the goal of making sure that they had the support and the resources, the infrastructure and the capacity that they need in order to reach those goals. Looking for organizations that have big goals like that and have the talent and the power to do that is one of the criteria that we look for when we are going through our grant making process.
We collaborated with Veterans Legal Services, and we've been with them for 5 years now, over 5 years, and it's worked. I mean, the veterans have an outlet that they can go to talk to somebody, that they don't have to spend a lot of money or they don't have to get ripped off or something. So they feel very comfortable with them.
I was 30 years old when I joined the Army, and I was looking for something new, something different. I had a floor sanding company, and I wanted to change careers. And at that age, back then, nobody, you're doing what you're doing. So I joined the military, and I became a Black Hawk mechanic. And one of the best things I've ever done in my life. When I got out of the service, I was able to continue my career as a Black Hawk mechanic working for the government. So I would go around, I went from state to state working on the Black Hawks, and I went overseas a few times and spent a few years here, a few years there, moving around, just keeping my military life going without actually being in the military. Back in January, I was having problems with my landlord. My back deck was falling off of the house. And when I went to them to repair it, they turned around and sent me an eviction notice through a text mail, giving me and my family 1 month to vacate the home we've been in for the last 5 years. And when I refused to leave, it went to shutting off my hot water for a month, shutting off my heat for a month, blasting loud music through the walls, construction noises till 9 o'clock at night, constant harassment. Again, not knowing anything about my legal rights or what to do, I started searching. And I did call a couple of different organizations. The Veterans Legal Services were the only ones really to get back in touch with me, or to take my case, or to take me seriously, to help me out. There was several calls where, again, I was talked down. It was just, being a veteran, our fight or flight, it's fight. And just to keep me calm and keep me, they took calls all hours of the night. Everybody I spoke with the organization was absolutely helpful, calming. The text message, I didn't know that was illegal. I didn't know that they couldn't drop my temperature below 68 degrees in the wintertime. It happened a month before COVID hit. And then right when COVID hit, we couldn't find a place to live. It was the street. That was with a newborn baby. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how was I going to fight this. I mean, the original plan was to hold it off long enough for us to find a place to live. That was what the original plan was. But the landlord pulling everything they pulled. I mean, if the dastardly trick in the landlord handbook, they pulled everything. And Julie was able to counter everything immediately. They got my heat turned back on. Then when the landlord called Child Welfare Services against my daughter, they also told me how to handle that and helped me handle that. Now, the landlord ended up losing the house. The new owner of the home came in, fixed everything, replaced the condemned deck, fixed the boiler, fixed everything, and is actually selling me the home. And I'm going to be, I'm in shock. I'm going to own the home that I was renting for less than I was renting it for. It's just not a penny out of my pocket through it. It's just, I can't, I've been blessed having the Julie and the lawyers. They were able to make sure that my rights were met. Being a veteran and being military, everything's your fault. Everything is your responsibility. And we live that, we eat that, we spew that. And to go out and reach for help and to admit that we cannot do this on our own is very difficult for a lot of us. And Veterans Legal Services made it easy.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, Veterans Legal Services created a telelegal support model so that veterans in any corner of the state who are experiencing a legal need can call VLS or fill out an online form on VLS's website to get connected with the support that they need.
So we want to be reaching veterans in Barnstable, Plymouth County, out in the western part of the state, in addition to the core area where we're serving right now. And the way that we plan to achieve this is by the same manner that we've delivered services ever since VLS began. And that's through partnering with community partner sites where the veterans are already receiving other services. And it helps us to become part of their team, helping them to succeed by removing legal barriers to success.
And we'll also be looking to pro bono partners, because pro bono is going to be a key element of growing the services across the state. We'll be looking to law firms and attorneys who are eager to contribute both their time and their talent to make sure that veterans have access to the legal support that they need.
So at the moment, we have wonderful relationships with many Boston area law firms. But what we're lacking are some of those relationships with firms that are serving other parts of the state. And in order for us to expand our geographic footprint, we're going to need to locate pro bono attorneys in those communities.
5 years from now, VLS, I think, under our strategic plan, will be larger. Our outreach to veterans throughout Massachusetts will be more complete than it is now. Outstanding leadership with Sarah and Anna, who have been here for 10 years more now, and who have been recognized in the Boston legal community for their expertise. And under their leadership, this staff and this organization, I think, have done terrific work. And we have more terrific work, I think, that can be done in the years ahead. And that's what we're looking forward to.
We talk a lot about being grateful to our veterans, to really be appreciating their service. And this is a way to put your money where your mouth is. Veterans have a lot of unique needs, and just like any other community, have legal needs as well. And VLS is committed to meeting them where they are and solving the problems that they have.
We live in a state and a country that provides great benefits for veterans if they can access them. But those benefits really are only as good as they are accessible.
Imagine you return from your military service and you're facing a new mental health challenge or physical challenge. This might mean that you can't return to work. You might have trouble accessing the benefits you've earned through your service. And maybe you can't pay the bills. This can put an inordinate amount of pressure on your marriage. Maybe your marriage can't survive this stress. And maybe, perhaps worst of all, you're told that you cannot see your children. That amount of stress is absolutely overwhelming for veterans. And without essential legal aid support, it's a perfect storm. We work to resolve those stressors, remove those barriers so that veterans can go on to lead the dignified lives they deserve.